जीवन पूर्ण बनेगा। भावातीत ध्यान कर लो, जीवन पूर्ण बनेगा। अनुभव कर लो, अनुभव कर लो, जीवन पूर्ण बनेगा। 20 मिनट बस ध्यान कर लो, जीवन पूर्ण बनेगा। सुबह शाम बस ध्यान कर लो, जीवन पूर्ण बनेगा। आसन प्राणायाम कर लो, जीवन पूर्ण बनेगा। अनुभव कर लो, अनुभव कर लो, जीवन पूर्ण बनेगा। भावातीत ध्यान कर लो। सबकी आत्मा शांति का सागर है, सबकी आत्मा आनंद का सागर है। सबकी आत्मा शांति का सागर है। सबकी आत्मा ज्ञान का सागर है। सबकी आत्मा ज्ञान का सागर है। सबकी आत्मा शक्ति का सागर है। सागर है, सागर है। अनुभव कर लो, अनुभव कर लो, जीवन पूर्ण बनेगा। 20 मिनट बस ध्यान कर लो, जीवन पूर्ण बनेगा। सुबह शाम बस ध्यान कर लो, जीवन पूर्ण बनेगा। आसन प्राणायाम कर लो, जीवन पूर्ण बनेगा। भावातीत ध्यान कर लो, जीवन पूर्ण बनेगा। अनुभव कर लो, अनुभव कर लो, जीवन पूर्ण बनेगा। भावातीत ध्यान कर लो।
जय गुरुदेव अनिता जी।
जय गुरुदेव अनिता जी। अनिता जी जय गुरुदेव। जय गुरुदेव सुनीता।
जय गुरुदेव बिंदु। मैम म्यूट पे हो आप?
हाँ जी।
एक Shall we start, Anita ji?
हाँ, we'll start. Are you doing the mala first?
Yes, this 16 and 15 I will do. I'll start that. Om Sri Paramatmane Namaha. Jai Gurudev. We shall start chapter 6, slokas 15 and 16. Sloka number 15. Yunjannivam sadatmanam yogi niyatamanasah santim nirvana paramam matsamsthamadhigacchati. नात्यस्नतस्तु योगोऽस्ति न चैकान्तमनस्नतः न चातिस्वप्नशीलस्य जाग्रतो नैव चार्जुना. Today's Shloka 17. Yuktahara viharasya yuktacheshtasya karmasu yuktasvapnavabodhasya yogo bhavati dukkhaha. Yuktahara viharasya yuktacheshtasya karmasu yuktasvapnavabodhasya yogo bhavati dukkhaha. That's it.
Gurudev. For him who is moderate in food and recreation, moderate of effort and actions, moderate in sleep and waking, for him is the yoga which destroys sorrow. Here is the broad principle to be followed by one who wishes to live a life of inner peace and happiness, integrated with successful activity in the outside world. The body should be given the rest it needs, and one should engage in activity, but not to a state of exhaustion. Recreation should be taken in due proportion so that it is neither too little nor too much. Shri Krishna Bhagavan means that life should flow in a regular way with a proper measure of activity and with each thing given its just value. One should avoid excess in all things and be regular in meditation, for this will result in the state of inner peace and freedom from bondage described in the 15th verse. Yoga, union, is not only a state where the mind is fixed in divine consciousness, it is at the same time a state of individual life where every aspect of being is in perfect harmony with divine life and with the life in nature. This state can only become permanent when the physical nervous system is sufficiently cultured to maintain it. The mind, as stated in the commentary in the verse 15, is in tune with the cosmic mind or intelligence of God, while the functioning of the body sets itself in tune with the functioning of the cosmic nature. The senses rise to the full height of their capability in order to experience and enjoy objects on the level of divine play. But for body, organs, and senses to function in their most natural way, in full accord with the laws of nature, it is absolutely essential that the routine of life be moderate, that everything connected with food and activity remain within the limits of moderation, that the happy medium be maintained. Moderate in sleep and waking. In its higher sense, this expression indicates that one is only moderately involved in the states
Of
मैम
sleeping,
आप म्यूट में हो
sleeping and waking.
आप म्यूट में हो मैम
Anita ji? This means that the waking state, the state of knowing and experiencing the objective world, is primarily maintained by the senses, while the mind is primarily held in
जी
being.
मैम एक मिनट बिंदु मैम एक मिनट
Yes, please.
अनिता जी
Ji?
अनिता जी, आप म्यूट में हो, आपका आवाज सुनाई नहीं दे रहा। आप म्यूट बटन एक बार दबा दीजिएगा।
Is it okay now?
यस मैम,
Okay.
कंटिन्यू मैम।
This means that the waking state, the state of knowing and experiencing the objective world, is primarily maintained by the senses, while the mind is primarily held in being. And in the sleeping state, the body and the senses are completely withdrawn from activity. But the mind is not overtaken by sleep. Although detached from all activity, it is awake in its awareness. Thus, one is moderate in sleeping and waking in the sense of not being wholly engrossed in them. Moderate in food, in order to be moderate in food, it is necessary to keep the whole system functioning normally. With regular meditation, morning and evening, the functioning of the inner mechanisms is maintained in a normal condition, and one becomes by nature moderate in food and recreation. Recreation means recreation of the normal functioning of the entire system so that it is capable of operating to its maximum capacity. When certain mechanisms of the bodies have been put to one specific type of activity, they become tired and a man loses efficiency in that activity. When he engages in another type of activity, other mechanisms become active and the tired ones take rest, thereby regaining their efficiency. This is said to be recreation. Those forms of recreation which are based on a change of activity in the outer field of life do not recreate the whole system at one time and therefore do not renew efficiency to the maximum extent. Transcendental meditation recreates in that it produces a state of restful alertness for the entire system and rejuvenates it, thus fulfilling the purpose of recreation. Moderate of effort in action means that one has not to overexert when working. This implies, first, that one should be strong enough not to get tired. In other words, one should be energetic, alert, and free from laziness. And secondly, that the undertaking should be in accordance with one's own dharma, consistent with the laws of nature. Otherwise, nature offers its silent protest against the effort, and one is compelled to make unduly great effort in actions. The regular practice of transcendental meditation fulfills both these needs because it provides greater energy and produces harmony in nature. It should not be understood that being moderate of effort and action is a prerequisite for yoga. This quality grows as the practice advances. It is not something which can be achieved without transforming the very nature of man and his surroundings. As the practice of meditation advances, it effortlessly transforms both his inner nature and the influence of the surrounding. This automatically makes him moderate of effort in actions. Each condition given in this verse lays emphasis on moderation, which is most effectively brought about through the regular practice of transcendental meditation. Therefore, transcendental meditation can be regarded as the most effective form of recreation. Yoga, which destroys sorrow. It has been said earlier that the transcendental state of consciousness is a state of yoga. This is undoubtedly a state of bliss. But how does the bliss that lies in the transcendental state help to end sorrow and suffering in the relative field of life? By taking the transcendental bliss and bringing back to the field of the relative existence, bliss begins to dominate the sphere in which the sorrows and sufferings prevail. The expression yoga which destroys sorrow, makes it clear that the different points which this verse brings out regarding conduct form an essential part of practice designed to transform transcendental pure consciousness into cosmic consciousness. The present verse explains the general mode of conduct which alone will allow the bliss experienced in meditation to be infused into the relative surface of existence. Its entire purpose is to warn the aspirant against laying too much importance on any one aspect of relative life. If only he takes things in their due proportion, every aspect of his life will remain without strain. It is this harmonious level of existence which provides the basis on which the divine being can be lived in the world. This is further explained by the word united in the following verse. Now, if you give me a minute, I get my scientific research book, okay?
Yes, Ramraj.
So in the verse 20 and verse 17, chapter 6, a very beautiful scientific research is here. Sunita, are you displaying if you have one? Yes.
Yes, ma'am, I'm displaying.
Right. Thank you so much. For him who is moderate in food and recreation, moderate of effort in action, this relates to increased energy level through Maharishi transcendental meditation. And by this, there is increased energy and enthusiasm, increased liveliness, increased vigor, increased readiness for activity, alertness, great physical well-being, and decreased drowsiness and lethargy. And as we will go through the main points, it will be so well verified that this is exactly what happens when we are into transcendental meditation and how we overcome everything when we take everything in moderation and in our effort to do so. So, this verse says that one who is moderate in the habits, in food, in recreation, moderate in exerting itself in actions, moderate in sleep, moderate in wakefulness, this person is the person who will be of steady intellect, and it is yoga which will destroy all pain and sufferings because excessive indulgence is suffering. So we must have a self-control, which is the power by which man can order the mind and the body to function according to the spiritual laws or according to the laws of nature. Overdoing things is as bad as indulgence in bad things. So this verse very clearly tells us self-control, power to order the mind and body, function, overexertion, defeats the purpose of yoga. As we have seen, if there is excess of light or excess of darkness or excess of heat or cold, we close our eyes. In the same way, if we do not have harmony according to the laws of nature, if we do not live in true principles of moderation according to the laws of nature, then it is not possible for us to live activities of life in full. And it is not possible then for us to transcend all suffering by yoga. So the most important point that we take here is to maintain that inner peace and happiness, we must have an integrated body, mind, and soul. And that integrated system will only come once we are established in the inner peace, and that inner peace is brought out in the relative world, and that inner peace and the outer peace will be a very good integrated combination of happiness in life. In that, it is said, Maharishi says, you must not do so much of activity that you reach to the level of exhaustion, and you must not even be lazy. So maintaining that balance, this state can be only maintained if you are able to tune your mind to that level. You're able to tune your nervous system to understand. But for body, organs, and senses to function in their natural way, we are supposed to have a good inner peace and happiness and outer manifestation as well. After all, if a sound mind in a sound body, body is equally important. But for body, he's saying, you're not supposed to exert it. You're not supposed to overdo it. If you in recreation, does not mean that you do not understand how much is required. A balance, a moderation. Even when you are sleeping, this means that waking state, if you're always in the waking state, that means that you are always in the objective world. And if you're in the sleeping state, then the body and the senses are completely withdrawn from activity, but the mind is not overtaken by sleep. So, thus one is moderate in sleeping, waking, and this moderate in sleeping, plus moderate in food, plus moderate in activity. So the best thing is we have a recreation, which means that normal functioning of the entire system. Because the body has been, if you put it to a specific type of activity, if you remember, Maharishi has given us that principles of science of creative intelligence, in which he tells rest and activity is so important. So this rest and activity are also disclosed here in Bhagwat Geeta. And it is said that if we do one activity for a longer time, we feel tired, we need another activity. So the recreation should be based on the change of activity in the outer field, so that it becomes interesting. And even important it is that if we understand that transcendental meditation recreates that in the form of restful alertness for the entire system and rejuvenates us, thus by fulfilling the purpose of recreation. And how he does? That the moderate effort in action it does, that the first one should be strong. See, the body has to be strong, not tired, not lazy, not less energetic, not less alert. When your body is strong, alert, energetic, and secondly, it is according to your own dharma, you run and undertake everything according to that, then you are consistent with nature. When both the body is strong and your inner self is strong through transcendental meditation, then every effort of yours will be most befitting, nourishing, and produces greater energy and greater harmony. So what we take in our words today is moderation in every sphere of our life. And this moderation will grow. It is not that first we have to be in moderation and then we are going to do transcendental meditation. No, we are first going to do transcendental meditation, and this moderate of effort will eventually grow, and it will transform the very nature of us. And in that transforming, we will reach that level of meditation, which is TM, Transcendental meditation, where we do everything effortlessly. And when we do everything effortlessly, we transform both the inner nature and the influence of the surroundings. So here, every condition is given here on the emphasis on moderation, which is most regular, brought about by transcendental meditation. So one more thing over here that we studied one point, yoga which destroys sorrow. This is how it will destroy sorrow. Because by yoga, we will reach that level of bliss in the transcendental state, and going to that transcendental state and then living in that state at the relative field as well will definitely bring us that blissfulness. So yoga will destroy sorrow. And this verse now explained the entire person is to warn us that laying too much importance on any one aspect in the relative life is not right. We must give everything its due proportion, and every aspect of life should be run without any stress or strain. There should be a harmonious level of existence, which is the basis of the divine being. And then only being can be lived in the world. Further in the chapter, you will be explained more. And I think we all understood by the transcendental bliss that we get in the state of samadhi, in the state of complete contentment and satisfaction, because here soul has nothing to desire, because it is firmly established in absolute truth, and there is no deviation from the truth. So this verse very beautifully has explained to us to live the life in moderation and doing everything in such a balanced way that we live an inner and outer integrated blissful life at the absolute level as well as on the relative level. Jai Gurudev.
Any queries?
I think, Sunita, it really puts up to us to a great thinking that how beautiful that life is, which is in our hands. The self-realization is in our hands. The self-control of mind is in our hand. So we as the individual are responsible for a better life for ourselves and through ourselves for the whole family, society, and then when we are working for the world peace. So each one of us lives a life as we have learned today, the life of proportion and moderation. And I think life will be beautiful.
Yes, Anita. Very well said. And that too, balancing everything in life is where you have to follow the Ashtanga Yoga. When we follow that Ashtanga Yoga, then it's the one that we are in the blissful state where we are making the heaven or the hell here itself is nowhere else. We feel everything that when we follow all these, we make our life blissful.
And when we make our life blissful, we manifest that a good life for everyone.
Yes, yes.
And this all that we are reading today or we are talking today, I do not know how everyone feels about it, but I feel if we take something from this verse and try to imbibe in our life, I think that would be the great meaning of Bhagwat Gita verse 17 that we have done today.
Yes.
Otherwise, simply reading and explaining and knowing and not implementing would not be that satisfying. But even a little portion of it that we implement, I think that would be a big takeaway from this verse. Thank you.
Yes. Jai Gurudev.
Jai Gurudev.
Shall we move on to next verse, Anitaji?
Yes, yes, Hema, please do.
Jai Gurudev, verse 18. Yada vinayatam chittam atmanivavatistate nispruha sarvakamephyo yukta ityuchyate tada. Yada vinayatam chittam atmanenavadishtate nispruha sarvakamephyo yukta ityuchyate tada. When his mind, completely settled, is established in the self alone, when he is free from craving for any pleasure, then is he said to be united? This is a description of the state of mind and reach through the practice described in the previous verses. His mind completely settled. This refers to transcendental consciousness, where the mind has become an unlimited and silent ocean of pure consciousness without a single wave of thought. It may also be said to refer to cosmic consciousness, where the calm of the ocean is not disturbed in spite of waves of thought and experience. It may be argued that it is the very nature of the mind to become completely settled in any object of experience, for was it not said in the 67th verse of chapter 2 that a man's intellect is carried away by the senses as a ship by the wind on water. This being the case, does not mind, drawn by the force of senses, become completely settled at the contact of the senses with their objects and enjoy the happiness to be derived therefrom? In order to give no room for such arguments and to avoid misunderstanding, Sri Krishna Bhagavan says, established in the self alone. This expression has its meaning on two levels, on the level of transcendental consciousness and on that of cosmic consciousness. On the transcendental level, there is nothing but the self alone. The nature of the self is pure consciousness, cosmic intelligence, cosmic existence, cosmic life, eternal being, absolute bliss. It is transcendent, ever the same, imperishable. It is smaller than the smallest. It is the silence. The word self expresses the inexpressible transcendental truth of life. The mind, coming to this field, loses its individuality and gains its true nature as pure being. On the level of cosmic consciousness, the expression established in the self alone means that in the midst of all behavior, in the activity or the silence of the waking, dreaming, and sleeping states, a man realizes the self as completely separate from the field of activity and thus remains established in the self alone. The varied experiences of life fail to overshadow this state of cosmic existence and complete fulfillment which the mind has gained. Having explained the steadfast and unshakable character of the mind in the state of eternal contentment, Sri Krishna Bhagavan turns to the practical value of such a state of mind for a principle or a state of mind which has no practical use in daily life is of little importance in the world. Sri Krishna Bhagavan has told Arjuna that the yoga which he is expounding here was given to the first rulers of the world, thereby placing it on a very practical level. Moreover, throughout the discourse, at the end of any exposition of a highly spiritual and abstract nature, Sri Krishna Bhagavan says something to tie it down to practical life. Here, he says, free from craving for any pleasure. Free from craving for any pleasure means fulfilled. Craving for pleasure arises from lack of contentment, which may be due to the objects of the senses not being available or to the inability of the senses to experience the joy that is available. But once a man is established in the state described in this verse, he is eternally contented, and this state of lasting contentment leaves no room for any craving for pleasures. This state of freedom from craving for any pleasure is on the level of that complete fulfillment of life where the individual being is one with the cosmic being. It is on the level of eternal freedom in divine consciousness, on the level of maintaining your consciousness in the self, on the level of union and knowledge. It fulfills the aspirations expressed by verse 55 of chapter 2 and verse 38 of chapter 4 and satisfies the level of attainment given in verse 8 of chapter 5. The state is on the level where the paths of Sankhya and Karma Yoga meet to find fulfillment in a common goal as brought out by verse 5 of chapter 5. United in verse 8. This word was used to denote evenness of vision. Here, as in verse 14, it is given a much wider meaning. It is used in terms of whole being, encompassing the entire field of the mind, its silence and its desires and activities, the whole field of life that lies between the two extremes of bondage and eternal freedom between the individual man and the cosmic divine. It denotes life in cosmic consciousness, which is inclusive of the relative and the absolute. Jai Gurudev.
Thank you, Hema. Now that we have reached words first and the very first few lines of verse 18 says, when the mind is completely settled and established in the self alone, when he is free from the craving of any pleasure, then it is said to be united. So here we come to know about the completely settled mind, and this refers to the transcendental consciousness where the mind has become unlimited and silent, pure ocean of consciousness. There is no wave of thought now. Everything is calm. There's nothing disturbing here. And this is the state they say is the state where the self is alone. We have read in the earliest verses also, self by the self. This expression has a meaning on two levels, on the level of transcendental consciousness and cosmic consciousness. As we all know, at the level of transcendental consciousness, the nature of the self is pure consciousness. And cosmic intelligence, cosmic existence, cosmic life, eternal being, that absolute bliss is there. And that bliss at the relative field when it comes, you are in that cosmic state of consciousness. How it is? that in transcendental consciousness, you are your own self. And that self does not get disturbed when you come on the relative field. And this is how you improve now, going from state to state, from transcendental consciousness to the cosmic consciousness, because now man realizes that the self is completely separate from the field of activity and thus remains established in self alone. These varied experiences of life fail to overshadow this state of cosmic existence, and complete fulfillment of the mind has been gained. Because now the mind is not guided by the senses, because it is established in steadfast, unshakable character of the mind has come in the state of eternal contentment. So Shri Krishna Bhagavan now says, this is the practical value of mind. For what reason we are doing the transcendental meditation? This is the first principle of the state of mind, that we bring it to that level of eternal contentment. And Shri Krishna Bhagavan tells Arjuna that yoga, which he is telling and talking about, to the first rulers from the inception of creation, that is now put on a practical level. So now we have to go and tie down to that type of a life which is free from craving for any pleasure. So in doing our austerity, and if we are gaining honor, respect, and adoration, for example, we are today, Bhagwat Geeta, verse 18, and all the time we are thinking there's somebody who is going to admire us, there's somebody who's going to see us, who's going to respect us more, because we are dealing with Maharishi commentary and we want some fruit of our action, then there is no need. He says we have to do everything with a purpose, with a surety, with pure consciousness. And whatever respect and fame and honor that we look forward is only transitory. It is temporary. You yourself is the pure self. So let us not be guided for those cravings for any pleasure for which we are looking forward for any returns. We are free from the craving from any pleasure. That means we are fulfilled. We are doing our duty, and with great earnest and with great level of responsibility, and not craving for anything that we want. We just want to carry on the message of Maharishi Ji's transcendental meditation, is great knowledge to everyone for us to understand that in order to lead a full and a complete life, let's follow transcendental meditation and let's understand to be the regular in our program. So this state of freedom from craving from any pleasure is on the level of now complete fulfillment of life, where the individual being is one with the cosmic being. It is on this level of eternal freedom in divine consciousness, on this level, that we have a complete union. And this union comes out of devotion, nothing else. And in the end, it says, this present verse now explains to us. It's very beautiful. I think it is just giving us an insight into such a lovely life that we are looking forward to. And then it tells us that now we are freed in the field of life that lies between the two extremes of bondage and eternal freedom, between the individual man and the cosmic divine. Therefore, this verse completely tells us and denotes life in cosmic consciousness, which is inclusive of the relative and the absolute. This last line is of utmost importance that this is cosmic consciousness, which is inclusive of relative and the absolute. The scientific research on this, Sunita, if you could display. Yes, when his mind is completely settled, is established in the self alone, when he is free from craving from any pleasure, then it is said to be united. And this research is verified by Maharishi Transcendental Meditation in a great scientific research which says periods of natural respiratory suspension, experience of pure consciousness during transcendental meditation, EEG indications of the state of restful alertness, and increased self-sufficiency, increase ego strength. So, when we are established state itself, when we have that feeling of restful alertness, we have that feeling of strength in us. And this is exactly what we learn. And verse 18, we take that great strength with us because we know that while we are practicing transcendental meditation, we carry with us that beautiful, pure consciousness, a state of mind, that restful state of mind in which we feel self-sufficient and great strength, ego in the good sense, strength of ego in the good sense. Jai Gurudev.
Jai Gurudev, Anitaji. So when we are saying that when a person reaches or attains cosmic consciousness, so they, whether it is a relative or absolute, they are in a state where they take everything as the same.
Yes.
So attaining cosmic consciousness after this transcendental consciousness, how means how would we know that that particular person has been
We don't,
attained?
okay. Okay, Sunita, this is a nice question, but we don't have to know about the person. We know about ourselves. You can know who's established in transcendental consciousness because when he comes and deals with person at the relative level, any person, it may be me or you, anybody who maintains that settled intellect of mind at the relative level, at the grosser level, and how well he is established to take his decisions, plays his proper role in everything, you can make out that that person is established in the self. He has a steady intellect. And when that person has that restful alertness in him, that is manifested in his, there are manifestations outside you can make out. At least I can make out. You don't have to talk about other people. We talk about our own self when we are into deep meditation and we maintain that level for a longer time. After we do meditation, you would have realized that for at least some time, we maintain that silence, when we maintain that steadiness. And then as we mix up with the world, things happen here and there. But then, if you are regular in your program and you are well established in yourself, you will at the cosmic level be established in the self, yet you will maintain yourself at the relative level as well. That great quality of the being will be with you even at the grosser level. Nothing will go away from you. You are now such an improved person. And then as Maharishi says, then you will have that decision-making qualities, you will have that understanding qualities, you will have that tolerance quality. All that scientific researches that we have been reading so far are only the outcome of transcendental meditation. So all the manifestation in the outer world will certainly let you know whether we are established in that level of cosmic consciousness or not.
Thank you, Anitaji.
Do you think you got what I'm saying? You got it?
Yes, yes,
So we don't have to judge others. We're going to judge ourselves,
yes,
right?
yes.
Anitaji, this is
Self-realization.
yeah.
Yes.
Anitaji, this is very true. Like for me, I've been experiencing. We get this out of our experience as we do regularly transcendental meditation. As you said, like we know like what decisions. While especially when we take certain decisions in our maybe in our family or when in our workplace, we understand where we need to stand and we have that balance of mind how to do it. So that is a good experience we are getting out of this. So we can make out, maybe we may not be in a very higher level, but at least to some extent, okay, this is what we need to do. And we have that balanced mind 70%, at least 70%, we understand. We are not immediately reacting to the situation. So this itself shows that, okay, this is what experience we have when we do transcendental meditation. And as we are listening to this Bhagavad Gita, the sessions, this is also helping us to improve ourselves. So we start moving inwards. That is what I understand.
Very nice, Hima. And exactly how you are saying, it reminds me, I'm being the youngest in the family. Nobody thought I had any sense, how younger people are. The elders feel that you don't have any sense, and we are elders and we have all the sense that God has given us. You will be surprised. I mean, I don't know if I should be sharing this or not. You will be surprised. Since I'm into meditation and been with Maharishi knowledge and his grace on me and blessings on me, people have started having so much of trust in me that even in all matters and property matters and every matter, I am supposed to be the main decision maker. I do not know what changes they find, but they believe in me. So this is extremely beautiful scientific research for myself that being the youngest in the family, I'm the leader of the family and taking decisions. Surprisingly. So as you are saying, I do not know. I mean, maybe I'm sorry if I'm speaking too much about myself, but this is a fact of life, and I thought I'll share. And all this credit I give to Maharishi Ji for being very fond of studying his knowledge and understanding, and trying my best to imbibe a little also. If I do, I think I owe gratitude. Thank you. Jai Gurudev.
Very true, Anita.
Improve in our mental.
Yes,
we discipline our mind. Our mental discipline will be improved, and we no longer be disturbed by any kind of material desire. And that's how we can gain some more, means we become more transcendental, like we gain cosmic consciousness. And also we are so disciplined that we are not at all disturbed by anything other than whatever is relevant for our life.
Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. Very nice, Nima. Good. I'm so glad you're on a very right and right path. Good.
It is not Hima, it is
Revati.
Revati. Okay, Revati. I'm sorry if I couldn't.
You can come on to the video and speak,
Revati. Yes, Revati, let us see you. If you so
I'm
desire.
seeing you a couple of times in the session, but we have never seen you. If possible, if you can switch on the video, it's well.
So I stand corrected because I may not have recognized your voice, but it's beautiful to hear good experiences about TM and your evolution. It's very nice. Thank you for sharing, Revati.
So nice of you. So nice of you. Jai Gurudev.
Jai Gurudev. Jai Gurudev.
Bindu ma'am, shall we continue?
Yes.
Thank you, Anita ji. Thank you.
Yeah, we continue.
Yeah. Thank you, Revati ji. We'll now move on to verse 19. यथा दीपो निवातस्थो नीङ्गते सोपमा स्मृता योगिनो यतचित्तस्य युञ्जतो योगमात्मनः यथा दीपो निवातस्थो नीङ्गते सोपमा स्मृता योगिनो यतचित्तस्य युञ्जतो योगमात्मनः Jai
Jai Gurudev. A lamp which does not flicker in a windless place. To such is compared the yogi of subdued thought, practicing union with the self. This verse may be compared with verse 69 of chapter 2, which says that in the night of all beings, the self-controlled man is awake. But the simile in the present verse is more profound, for whereas the expression in the second chapter is in the context of the senses and their control. The lamp in a windless place represents thought standing by itself, freed from the influence of the senses. This illustrates the reason for the difference between the discourses of enlightened men at different times. When such men come out to explain the truth, their manner of expression and depth of thought depend upon the time and surrounding circumstances. Their discourse depends upon the purity of consciousness of those listening to it. At this stage, Arjuna's consciousness has become pure enough to understand with exactness the state of the yogi of subdued thought, practicing union with the self. It may be noted that any objective experience is due to the mind's association with the object through the senses. For example, if one is meditating on a thought, the experience of the gross and the subtle states of that thought are due to the mind's association with the sense of speech. During meditation, the object of experience continues to be perceived in its diminishing states. But when the subtlest state of experience has been transcended, then the mind is free from the influence both of the object and of the sense through which it has been experiencing. As long as the mind is influenced by the senses and their objects, so long is it like a lamp flickering in the wind. But once out of their influence, it becomes steady, like a lamp which does not flicker in a windless place. As long as the mind is associated with the object, so long is it the experiencing mind. But when the object of experience has diminished to the point where it has disappeared, the mind ceases to be the experiencing mind. Conscious mind becomes consciousness. But during this process of transformation, it first gains the pure state of its own individuality. It is interesting to see that the verse does not speak of the mind but of thought as being steady. The Sanskrit word used is chitta, which signifies that aspect of mind which is a quiet and silent collection of impressions or seeds of desires. Chitta is like water without ripples. It is called manas or mind. when ripples arise. When the mind gains the state of chitta or thought, then it stands steady like a lamp which does not flicker in a windless place. It holds its individuality in the void, the abstract fullness around it, because there is nothing for it to experience. It remains undisturbed, awake in itself. Imagine a silent wave on a silent ocean, ready to expand and merge into the silence of the deep. The state of the pure individuality of the mind, the pure individuality of the I, expressed by this verse, directly merges into the transcendental self-consciousness. This is expressed by Sri Krishna Bhagavan as union with the self. The mind is united with the divine being. The state of divine union or yoga is defined in its different aspects in the four following verses, after which 6 verses are devoted to the transformation of transcendental consciousness into cosmic consciousness. Then 3 verses bring to light the essence of the path from cosmic consciousness to God consciousness, in which a yogi reaches the pinnacle of achievement. Jai Gurudev.
Jai Gurudev. So this 19th verse, which beautifully explains, just as a lamp in a windless place does not flicker, so the disciplined mind of a yogi remains steady in meditation on Supreme. Sri Krishna Bhagavan gives a simile of the flame of a lamp. In the wind, the flame flickers naturally because there is so much to disturb it. However, in the windless place, the flame is steady. Similarly, the mind is fickle by nature, very difficult to control. When the mind is controlled, it becomes settled, it becomes a shelter against the winds of desire. This comes by the mind under the control by the power of devotion. This is a little summary that I prepared for you for the verse 19. Because the most important point over here is the simile, it is very nicely says that the mind is also as fickle by nature, like something which comes and disturbs the mind. And then if you have your mind in control, then your mind becomes sheltered against those winds of desire. So this is a simile. And to understand that in this verse, we have seen that Sri Krishna Bhagavan says, when the self-controlled man is awake, then nothing disturbs. This also says that everything depends on the purity of consciousness. And when the purity of consciousness is there, then it is pure enough to understand the exactness of the state of the yogi, because now he is in union with the self. And how can we be in union with the self? That is only when we practice, go to the subtlest state of awareness. And during meditation, we experience whatever we experience, and as we go to the subtlest and subtlest state as we transcend, then the mind is free from the influence of both the objects and the senses, and which we have been experiencing. So as long as the mind is influenced by the sense and their object, so long it is a lamp which is flickering. But once that influence becomes steady, it is like a lamp which does not flicker which is placed in a windless place. So over here now, the mind ceases to be experiencing all these thoughts and senses, and we are now moving the conscious mind, which is now becoming consciousness. This line is very important. The conscious mind now becomes consciousness, because this is the process of transformation. It gains a pure state of its own individuality. And when it attains that state of individuality, we call it the steady state of intellect. Here also two words are there, chitta and manas, and all these words, they come to explain to us about the steadiness of everything. When the mind gains this state of chitta or thought, chit, then it stands steady like a lamp which does not flicker in a windless place. So the same simile is again and again explained beautifully. And again it says, it holds its individuality in the void, and that fullness around, because there's nothing for it now to disturb it. It remains undisturbed. So imagine a silent wave on the ocean. Another simile, another comparison. Now you think, if a silent wave on a silent ocean, ready to expand and merge into the silence of the deep, this is the state of pure individuality of mind, pure individuality of the I, capital I, expressed in this verse. So that is, now it directly merges the transcendental self-consciousness. And you will see this means the union with the self. And by this verse, we are now moving on to the high states of consciousness, because it has told you in the last three lines that these three verses will bring into light the essence of path from cosmic consciousness to God consciousness. So that means we will be moving towards the higher states of consciousness, in which a yogi reach the pinnacle of achievement. So ultimately we have to reach that level, the pinnacle, the highest achievement. And what that would be? Moving from cosmic consciousness to God consciousness. The scientific research on verse 19 says, yes, the scientific research, to such a lamp which does not flicker in a windless place, to such is compared the yogi of subdued thought, practicing union with the self. And this has been found out through the scientific research, through Maharishi transcendental meditation, that there is greater wakefulness, increased mental clarity and wakefulness, EEG indication of a unique state of restful alertness, periodical natural breath suspension, decrease metabolic rate, decrease oxygen consumption, decrease respiration rate. So we can see from this scientific research how important it is for us to be doing meditation, the transcendental meditation, how it helps us biologically, physiologically, and how the metabolic rate comes down, how there is decreased in oxygen consumption, and there's a great sense of restful alertness that is envisaged or witnessed by us. And when this state occurs, then definitely the outcome is great mental clarity. And this mental clarity will then help us to live on the relative level with greater strength and greater wisdom. Check with them.
Thank you, Anitaji. Any queries?
I just want to make a note. When we see an object, so So we will have an attachment to it. So this attachment, is she there, Anitaji?
Yes, I mean, see,
Yeah.
we
I
are,
don't see me.
I don't know, because
Yeah.
we are a very normal human being, and we have seen over the, but the attachment should not be such that
Raises desire in us.
you are in the box. You don't come out of that box, because this is an attachment and I can't do without it. It may be human being, it may be your wealth, it may be anything. One does get attached to things. If you remember, earlier Shri Krishna Bhagwan also said that to be attached to something is not bad. Bad is that if you are so overwhelmingly attached that you are yourself disturbed by that attachment. The main idea is, if we are disturbed by that attachment, we have got stress and strain on ourselves because of that attachment, then that attachment could be bad. But otherwise, you like a thing, you appreciate a thing. We are human beings, we are living in a material world, we are living in a social world. But as long as that thing does not impact us, destroys our peace, destroys our restful alertness, it's okay. But once it is more on us and it is spoiling our life, and it is bringing in our thoughts and taking us towards negativity and emotional stress and strain, that would be bad. So the level of attachment also will depend on the level of consciousness.
So that is where we can make out the difference between the transcendental meditation and the cosmic consciousness.
Absolutely.
We are,
Absolutely. Absolutely, Sunita. And to get attached to something, it's not bad. I'm very attached to Maharishi. I don't think that's bad. I'm very attached to his knowledge. I don't think it is bad. If that knowledge and that attachment is helping me in my evolution, I mean to be attached. And if it is not helping me, then sorry, then my attachment is wrong. Even to any object, even to any human being, if the attachment brings satisfaction and fulfillment, yes, why not? That's what my take is. Everybody can have a different views on that, but that's what Maharishi says. You know, like you remember in one verse we had read, it is not wrong to have desires. But if the desires bring so much of stress on you, then the desires are bad. Desires are not bad. But desires should not be those desires in which they are not fulfilled and they bring so much discontent to you. Then the desires are bad.
yes, that
Otherwise,
will bring sorrow.
as far as we human beings are concerned, we need desires, we have attachment, but the level of that attachment should not be disturbing to us.
Thank you, Anitaji.
I don't know. That's what, Sunita, I feel personally about. So I'm sharing. I'm not a great authority on that, but that's my personal views. And I think that's helped me. And I'm living quite a touchwood, blissful life. So I'm quite happy about it.
Yes.
Right?
Thank you, Anitaji. We
Hima.
now move on to verse 20.
Yes, Hima.
Yatro paramate chittam niruddham yoga sevaya yatra chaivatmanatmanam pasyannatmani tushyati. Yatro paramate chittam niruddham yoga sevaya yatra chaivatmanatmanam pasyannatmani tushyati. Chekuti. Anitaji.
Yes, Hema, I thought you were reading 20 verse. I'll read 21 better.
Okay, I'll read that.
Okay.
That state in which thought settled through the practice of yoga retires, in which seeing the self by the self alone, he finds contentment in the self. This verse describes a further step in the practice. The previous verses have taken the mind to the state where thought, the resolute intellect, stands by itself, steady and unmoved. The present verse says that when, with continued practice, this steady intellect gains a clear experience of its individuality, it begins to retire. The process of retiring begins with the expansion of individuality, and when this happens, the intellect, losing its individuality, begins to gain universality, begins to gain the unbounded status of being. While merging into being, it cognizes being as its own self and gains bliss consciousness. The yogi finds contentment in the self. The self, as was said in the commentary on verse 18, is of transcendental nature until the mind transcends all experience. It does not realize the self. In the process of transcending all experience, the mind retires from the experience of multiplicity and gains the experience of unity in its own individual nature. Then, transcending its individual status, it expands into cosmic being. This state of being, the state of transcendental consciousness, is referred to by the words seeing the self by the self alone. The word alone is significant, for it emphasizes that the transcendental self itself forms the content of its being, and that nothing which is of relative existence can possibly cognize it. Its purity, eternal and supreme, is such that even the finest aspect of individual life, the resolute intellect, is foreign to it and is denied entry into it. The intellect has to surrender its existence in order to find its place in the eternal being of the self. This is the glory of the nature of the self. Having come back home, the traveler finds peace. The intensity of happiness is beyond the superlative. The bliss of this state eliminates the possibility of any sorrow, great or small. Into the bright light of the sun, no darkness can penetrate, no sorrow can enter bliss consciousness, nor can bliss consciousness know any gain greater than itself. The state of self-sufficiency leaves one steadfast in oneself, fulfilled in eternal contentment. The present verse forms the beginning of a long sentence that culminates the verse 23. Nowhere else in the Bhagwat Geeta do we find a sentence of this extended nature. This is because these 4 verses present yoga, the state of divine union in its complete glory. The present verse brings to light the state of divine union in transcendental consciousness. The following verse depicts it in cosmic consciousness, the third in terms of supreme gain, that is God consciousness, and the fourth in terms of the elimination of suffering. Jai Gurudev.
Thank you, Hema. Now, in this verse, I have a little summary for you. When the mind restrained from the material activities becomes still by the practice of yoga, then yogi withholds the soul through purified mind, and he rejoices the inner joy. In this verse, Shri Krishna Bhagavan reveals the results of meditation. In the last few verses, we have been learning about the technique and the process. And now here we are going to hear about the benefits of meditation. He reveals about the results of meditation, the state of perfection where mind is purified and one is able to perceive self as distinct from body, mind, and intellect. And a beautiful example I remember has been given many a times that when you see muddy, there's a muddy water in the glass and you can't see really the water because it's muddy. Then you put alum into it, it settles down, and then everything is clear. Similarly, when the mind is unclean, it obscures perception because we have an unclean mind. But when the mind is pure, the soul directly perceives through realization. So the most important thing here again is that there is a purification through self-realization. Now, here, how beautifully it has come, the process. You would have read this here about retiring. This does not mean that we retire and we are going away. It means that we are only moving from individuality to universality. And from that universality, when we gain that unbounded status of being, and when we are merging into being, then what we cognize is being as one's own self, and that bliss consciousness that we gain is the consciousness of contentment and fulfillment of the self in the self. Now, when does this take place? This state of bliss consciousness, it takes place when the mind transcends all experience. It does not realize the self. In this process of transcending all experiences, the mind retires to multiplicity. And do you know, in that multiplicity, it gains unity. And how that unity comes? Because now we are transcending and transcending into by the subtlest states of the consciousness. This state of being, the state of transcendental consciousness, is referred here, seeing the self by the self alone. I think we all know that in this state, transcendental conscious state, the self stands there, self knows itself. Now, another point which is of great importance over here is, this is what is absolute, the glory of the self. What is the glory of the self? The self knows itself. The bliss of this state eliminates all possibility of sorrows. We have even read in the previous verse that yoga destroys sorrows. You remember in the previous verse we have read this? So here again, it has been reiterated that yoga destroys sorrow, and this eliminates all the possibility of sorrow, and into the bright light of sun there is no darkness can penetrate. So no sorrow can enter into bliss consciousness, nor can bliss consciousness know any greater than itself. That bliss consciousness is that state of self-sufficiency, fulfillment in eternal contentment. So this point now proves that yoga destroys sorrow, and yoga is that state of mind, the union of mind with God, and we achieve that state through transcendental meditation. The scientific research on verse 20. Can I have the display, Sunita? The scientific research on verse 20 says, in which the thought settles through the practice, okay, settles through the practice of yoga, retires, in which seeing the self by the self alone, he finds contentment in the self. And this is a very important state of transcendental meditation. And through meditation, we achieve a greater rate, the ECG coherence. Again, it says a great state of restful alertness, decrease oxygen consumption, decrease respiration rate. These are all the benefits that we achieve through transcendental meditation, which are significantly correlated with clearer experience of transcendental consciousness. After 2 weeks of practice of transcendental meditation program, individuals showed significant increase in EEG coherence during the practice, in contrast to those who just were there with eyes closed, controlled condition before doing transcendental meditation. So that means that if we have in hand such great benefits and scientific researches of the transcendental meditation, then I think we need to be now more regular in our program, in our daily activities, give proper time, proper place to our great technique that we are into. Jai Gurudev.
Jai Gurudev Anitaji. Shall we move to the next verse or
Yes,
shall
yeah.
we have the
We
fast
will
now?
finish 21 because we'll finish the reading. If there's no time, then we can have the points later, but we'll finish the reading, Sunita.
Yes, Hema.
Thank you,
Anitaji.
Anitaji.
Yes,
Now
Hema.
move on to 21, Anitaji. 21
Yeah.
seconds.
You do the Sanskrit, I'll read the English part. Thank
Yes,
you.
Anitaji. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you, Anitaji. Verse 21. Sukhamatyantikam yat yat buddhigrahyamatīndriyam veti yatra na chaivayam sitaschalati tattvataha. Sukhamatyantikam yat tat buddhigrahyamatīndriyam veti yatra na chaivayam sitaschalati tattvataha. Chekuti.
Knowing that which is infinite joy and which, lying beyond the senses, is gained by intellect and wherein established, truly he does not waver. In order to know why the senses cannot experience infinite joy, it is necessary to understand the origin of the senses and their objects. Creation begins with Prakriti or nature, which expresses itself in the 3 gunas, Sattva, Rajas, and Tamas. As the process of the creation continues, the 3 gunas manifest as Mahat Tattvas, the principle of intellect. This further manifests as Aham Tattva, the principle of mind, which in turn manifests as the 5 Tanmantras from which arise the 5 senses. Then, as the process of manifestation continues, the 5 Tanmantras manifest into 5 elements which combine to constitute the entire objective creation. The range of sensory experience is limited to the field of creation resulting from 5 elements. The senses only enable one to experience the joys of the objective world. The bliss of the eternal life lies far beyond the scenes and immediately beyond the intellect. It can be appreciated by the intellect, but cannot be appreciated by the senses. Shri Krishna Bhagavan says that the infinite joy of this transcendental nature, it is known only when the subtlest aspect of relativity, the intellect, surrenders itself to the transcendental self, as was explained in the previous verse. Once it is known, one is so captivated by it that one can never be completely out of its influence. Gained by intellect. Although infinite joy comes with the surrender of the intellect, it is even said to be gained by the intellect. When the crown prince becomes king, the crown prince ceases to exist. But even then, it can be said that the crown prince has gained kinship. It is in this sense that the state of transcendental self is gained by the intellect. Does not waver in the state of transcendental consciousness, there is no possibility of activity, but continued practice of transcending the field of relativity, which cultures the mind so that it remains established in bliss, unwavering, even in the field of activity. This verse brings out the essential characteristics of yoga and cosmic consciousness, infinite joy, lying beyond the senses, gained by the intellect, wherein established. Truly, it does not waver. Details of this state are given in verse 24 to 29. So we have a quick summary of verse 21. And here we have come to know that this is a joyous state of yoga called samadhi. This is the state which is of supreme bliss. One never deviates from the eternal truth. Yearning for bliss. We all are yearning for bliss. And this yearning for bliss is the nature of the soul. God is the ocean of bliss, seated within us, each one of us. And when the mind is in the union with God, then the soul experiences that sublime bliss beyond the senses. This is when we reach the state of samadhi. Now, the point that we take away from this is that the joy and happiness is within us. And we can only experience it when we are in ourselves, realize that eternal being in us, and we realize that the ocean of bliss, which we think is outside the happiness, it is within us. And we gain this when we have the union with God. And how do we have? We have a technique with us, and that technique is called the Transcendental Meditation Technique, and we make use of it. And here we go into the supreme bliss. And the scientific research also says of the verse 21, that which lying between the senses is gained by the intellect, and wherein established truly, he does not waver. And when you are established in this state of bliss consciousness, then there is increased field independence, indicating broader comprehension and increased ability to focus attention, increased ego strength, more balanced mood, and increased emotional stability. So these are the beautiful findings of the scientific research which the individual can achieve through Maharishi Transcendental Meditation Program. And then this is what we are now looking forward to, that supreme bliss in supreme consciousness, which is attained through meditation when we reach that level. Thank you, and Jai Gurudev. Sunita, I don't know what's the time like, because I'm so involved.
9:02. It's 9:02. So
Oh
we'll
my
wind
God.
up the session with the
Just
Sadhu
Yes,
for
please
this
do.
week.
Yeah, because
And
I get so involved that I'm sorry. Any birthdays and all, you can ask Sunita. We can celebrate all those birthdays. And yes, any one of our friends who are attending have birthdays today, you're welcome to let us know. And maybe we can sing for you this Friday or next Friday. Yes, Sunita, kindly proceed.
Yes, sir. Anitaji, we will have Shanti part, and next week we will have the recitation because it's already 9:30.
Okay, I'm sorry. Okay. Then we'll start up with the. Is Manish ji here?
Yes, Anitaji, Manish ji है.
मनीष जी शांति पाठ करेंगे और अगले फ्राइडे को वी विल बिगिन विद द रेसिटेशन ऑफ द चैप्टर
Yes.
राइट थैंक यू
जी दीदी जय गुरुदेव जय
शांति
गुरुदेव
पाठ कीजिए क्योंकि अभी 9 बज गया है, तो अगले हफ्ते में हम लोग क्या करेंगे, पहले रेसिटेशन करके फिर हम शुरू करेंगे क्लास सेशन. ठीक है
जी दीदी
तो अभी शांति पाठ कीजिए.
हरि ओम माधो शांतिरंतरिक्षगुं शान्तिः पृथिवी शान्तिरापः शान्तिरोषधयः शान्तिः वनस्पतयः शान्तिर्विश्वे देवाः शान्ति ब्रह्मा शान्तिः सर्वगुं शान्तिः क्षमा शान्तिरेधि जतो यतः समीहसि ततो नो अभयं कुरु शन्नः कुरु प्रजाभ्यो भयं नः पशुभ्यः हरि ओम ओम शांति 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 जय गुरुदेव
जय गुरुदेव थैंक यू मनीष जी
जय गुरुदेव. धन्यवाद मनीष.
जय गुरुदेव दीदी
जय गुरुदेव
जय
अनिता जी.
गुरुदेव.
so we wish each one of us we will say Jai Gurudev and you close the session. Ghanshyam ji, thank you so much. And next Friday हम आपसे शुरू करेंगे. आपका आशीर्वाद भी होगा. We will begin this chapter from recitation from Ghanshyam ji or Manish ji, whoever is available. Thank you. Jai Gurudev.
Thank you. Jai Gurudev.
Yes,
Jai Gurudev.
oh, Jai Gurudev, how are you? It's so lovely to see you. Good. That's very nice. So you're attending the sessions? Yeah? All the sessions on Friday?
Mom is on mute and
Doesn't matter.
okay.
So ye badi regularly she attends, no?
Yes,
She
yes.
comes,
She is
right?
in the session
Every week
every
she
time.
comes.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you very much.
Okay.
for
Okay.
attending the sessions. Jai Gurudev Antaji. So
Jai
shall I wind up the session now?
Mm-hmm.
Jai Gurudev.
She's
Say hi to Hema.
Hello, Jai Gurudev. हाँ ना इसको अनम्यूट कर सकते हैं सुनीता?
she has to do.
She has to do.
Just say hi to Hema for me.
Jai Gurudev.
Jai
Okay.
Gurudev.
Okay, okay. Yeah. So close, Sunita. We'll
Okay,
wind up.
Antaji, Jai Gurudev.
Jai Gurudev.